Hi, welcome to Audiobook Academy. This is a self-paced audiobook. There's no need to keep an eye on things. Just pay attention. Thank you for taking the time to listen. This is a book summary of The Talent Code: Greatness Isn't Born. It's Grown. Here's How. By Daniel Coyle. In what area of your life would you like to improve? Surely you've wished that you could be as good as someone else. True mastery is the subject of the Talent Code's investigation. It's common knowledge that natural talent cannot be taught, but this book dispels that myth by showing how tools and skills can be used to develop natural talent. Using fluency and accuracy, as well as practice and motivation, we can unlock the code to revealing our talents. Author Daniel Coyle, best known for the Culture Code, examines the 10,000-hour rule genre in this insightful and straightforward book with these three clear themes. We are given the tools to achieve all of our potential. Over the course of his travels, Coyle came across a slew of obscure but noteworthy locations. He was on the lookout for places with large talent pools where he could get a glimpse of what was going on below the surface. A tennis club outside Moscow and a music school in New York City were two of his 9 unusual picks for the list. A year's worth of material can be completed in 7 weeks at the tennis and classical music schools, which have produced more top 20 tennis players than the United States. Despite the fact that each location appeared to be unique and different, his research revealed that they all shared patterns, methods, and behaviors in common with one another. This summary will give us a quick overview of the talent code and demonstrate how practice, motivation, and coaching are essential to developing one's potential. Read on to learn more. Our study of notable and exceptional individuals will help us understand how to cultivate talent. The myths of innate ability, good fortune, and superior genes will be dispelled as a result. What makes someone talented isn't an accident or magic, it's all down to mastering an established process. Myelin is made by practice. Coyle argues that we are not born great nor do we have greatness thrust upon us. Instead, greatness is built and developed over time through careful practice. What evidence do we have to back this up? There are many ways to measure the effects of practice and learning, and our brains can tell us a great deal about this. Our brains are like muscles, and like all muscles, they grow stronger and better trained. According to research, myelin appears to be an important factor for people who excel in their fields. To put it another way, if we imagine our brains as a network of interconnected circuits, myelin serves as the protective covering for all the wires. In order for our neurons to function properly, we require myelin to act as an insulator. Neurons with insufficient myelin coating suffer from the same problems as wires that are improperly insulated. Because the brain is like a muscle, its circuitry changes over time. In order to reach our full intellectual potential, we must work to hone the brains that were given to us at birth. Myelin thickens as our brains mature, allowing us to develop our skills and talents more effectively and efficiently. Coyle asserts that all skills are derived from the same source: myelin. So, how do we build myelin in the body? It's the result of a lot of hard work and dedication. Deliberate or purposeful practice are other names for what Coyle calls deep practice. Take Meadowmount School of Music as an example. If a bystander recognizes the song you're playing, it's being played too quickly, according to the rule. There is a strong emphasis on rhythmic and purposeful movement at the tennis school. If you want to get better, you need to practice slowly. This is because all skill is stored in our brains, and when we practice in specific ways, we develop and improve our brains. Practicing to the edge of one's comfort zone is another characteristic of deep practice. While practicing, it is never acceptable to feel like you're coasting. Stretching ourselves just beyond our comfort zone, but not breaking, is the point of this exercise. When it comes to practicing, don't just stick to the songs you know or run the same route every time. Practicing should be a struggle because we need to push ourselves. Because we've been taught that making mistakes is a sign of inexperience, many of us are reluctant to put in the time to practice regularly. We need to re-examine our mistakes. Because making mistakes is the best way to build myelin, we should never give up because of failure. The only way to increase the amount of myelin in our brains is by going through a process of trial and error and subsequent correction. Chunking up the task we're working on is another way to practice slowly and methodically. In theory, it's much easier to deal with smaller units, which is why this strategy was developed. As a bonus, when we look at something in terms of its parts, we get a clearer picture of how each component fits into the whole. So practice is all about looking at each small piece of the task, practicing slowly and deliberately, focusing on repetition, and going outside our comfort zone. We're going to make mistakes, but they're a necessary part of the journey. In fact, if we don't make mistakes, we're not practicing hard enough. Even more importantly, Coyle argues that we need to engage in more conflict. Struggle isn't an option, it's a biological necessity, he says. Futsal, a Brazilian sport, exemplifies how struggle is beneficial to growth and development. Children in Brazil play the game of futsal as a form of recreation. The ball is smaller and heavier than in football or soccer, but the game is otherwise very similar. Compared to football, this sport demands greater accuracy and a greater emphasis on repetition and correction. This emphasis means that when children grow up and begin playing soccer, they become masters of the sport. Deep practice, according to Coyle, increases skill acquisition tenfold over regular practice. Moreover, practice is essential, but only if it's the right kind. It's widely accepted that Michelangelo was born with a genius in him. In any case, he was able to develop his brilliance by putting in long hours of practice. After working with a stonemason for a few years at the age of 6, he began his apprenticeship. He went from apprenticeship to apprenticeship, learning and mastering new skills from a variety of highly qualified teachers. He was 25 when he painted the Pietà, his most famous work. Michelangelo said that if people knew how hard he worked, they wouldn't be in awe of him. In order to recognize talent, we have to wait until the person has already established themselves. We only see the final product, not the hours of practice and dedication it took to get there. We tend to only pay attention to people once they've hit their peak. Success comes to those who put in the time and effort to hone their abilities and build up their myelin sheaths. Awaken your inner fire and follow your dreams. When we study history, we often come across periods in which extraordinary things were accomplished, efforts were made, and excellence was achieved. In a short history of nearly everything, we learn a great deal about a period of significant scientific advancements. A time of great artistic achievement and a time of great rivalry. The Renaissance and the space race are two examples of this. These seemingly impossible tasks, such as walking on the moon or determining Earth's mass, have all shown us something about our own capabilities as a species. A common catalyst for these bursts of human achievement is the conviction that the previously unthinkable has now become feasible. When people see impossible things being accomplished, there is usually a swell of excitement. The Bannister effect was coined by Stephen Kotler in his book, The Rise of Superman. For the first time in history, Roger Bannister ran a 4-minute mile. It was considered impossible at the time to run a mile in under 4 minutes. Roger Bannister's first 4-minute mile, though unorthodox, changed the face of running forever. Because of the Bannister effect, people began to believe that the seemingly impossible was actually possible. According to Sports Illustrated, the greatest sporting achievement of the 20th century was achieved as a result of this. The secret to greatness is imagining what is possible. As a result, when others achieve success, it serves as motivation for us to follow suit. As another example, consider the 1998 major championship win by South Korean golfer Sari Pak. Many South Koreans had never heard of golf before this point. The country of South Korea, on the other hand, was gripped by golf fever after Sari Pak made her mark on the sport. Long-term motivation and commitment are required if we are to improve our abilities and skills. Discipline and perseverance are required to adhere to the 10,000-hour rule, which is not always easy to achieve. Passion and inspiration are the two sources of perseverance. We must have faith that we can achieve our goals. Our ability to develop our talents is greatly aided by events and people who inspire us to get out of our comfort zone and stretch ourselves, allowing us to build the myelin necessary to excel. Guided by a true master. Whether it's motivational speeches in the locker room, marching orders before battle, or reluctant mentors rising to the occasion, we've all seen our fair share of Hollywood films featuring such scenes. Being able to learn from and be inspired by a mentor or coach is invaluable when trying to achieve greatness on our own. With both practice and passion, you've got a winning combination. A coach can often serve as a bridge between them. Some coaches have a mix of both passion and discipline, while others choose to focus on one or the other. Consider the career of legendary college basketball coach John Wooden. There were no motivational speeches or pep rallies in Wooden's style of leadership. His attitude was neither positive nor negative. It was important to Wooden that each of his players had access to accurate information. As much as possible, he tried to keep things as consistent as possible, and he made his players aware of any necessary adjustments. A player's ability to perform at his or her best can only be improved by focusing on the smallest details of his or her game and developing them from the ground up. Coyle explains that there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to coaching, and that coaching is context and individual-specific. Some coaches lay the groundwork for deep practice, while others provide a much-needed sense of excitement and vigor. Depending on our personality type and how far we've progressed, we may need a different type of coaching. We need a technical coach and another coach who is more outgoing when it comes to coaching, because the goal of coaching is to connect ignition and deep practice. We should seek the advice of a coach who favors clear and concise communication when we need to improve our deep practice. It can be difficult to break out of our comfort zone even if we have put in the time and effort for deep practice. Ending on a high note. Neurosis is just a high-class word for whining, said Albert Ellis, a leading psychologist of the 20th century. The problem with much Freudian-style therapy was that it didn't make us feel better because it didn't push us to take action. The premise is that the only thing that can truly improve our mood is actually doing something about what we lack. It's time to get down to business. It's pointless to ruminate on our potential transformations and accomplishments. A lack of aptitude or talent is often cited as the reason for our failures. We need to stop whining, start practicing, and have faith that we can achieve our goals. Nike has a famous slogan that reads, "Just do it." Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Please don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. See you in next audiobook.